Welcome back to the Healthy Commute. I'm Dr. Dan. I'm with Dr. Pascal. Today we're going to talk about something that we use a lot with our patients, and that's called the Denneroll.
Correct.
It is has a funny name.
Right. People call it the Denneroll.
Right.
But it's really the D-E-N-N-E roll. Denneroll, named after the gentleman that created them.
Right. And we wanted to do this today because for us it's a very integral part of our patients' care.
Correct.
In terms of getting them back to a good, healthy, normal position for their spine. Now, but just like anything else, when we're talking about a stretch or an exercise, we start doing it, and then a few weeks later, maybe we feel a little bit better. Maybe it's just because it's a month later, and then now it's out of sight, out of mind, and we stop doing it.
We lose focus.
So we just wanted to kind of maybe go over a few of the key essentials in terms of the benefits for patients, and help them hopefully kind of get back to doing it on a regular basis. Right?
And maybe a reminder of, why would we want to have, because the reason we're doing the Denneroll is to put the natural curves back in the spine when we look at it from the side, right? Great, Doc, I got a spine that looks good from the side. But Dr. Dan, what does it mean to have those proper curvatures or have a spine sitting in its normal position?
Right, so I guess maybe to take a step back, so as chiropractors, we work with the spine, we work with the bones of the spine. Sometimes we're referred to as bone doctors or back doctors, and yes, we help the spine, but really what we are is nerve system doctors. Why we work with the spine is because of what's on the inside. Right? And what's on the inside is the spinal cord and the nerves, which is the communication pathways between your brain and your body. So our spine's job really is, there's two main jobs, right? We want, number one, the spine is to protect and to hold your posture. So we want you nice and straight from the front, from the sides like you were talking about. We need a curve in the neck, curve in the middle, and a curve in the lower back, and alternating kind of curves.
Yeah.
So in that position, the body could have and hold its posture, muscles are working well, good range of motion, everything's doing well. But on the inside, that enables the brain and the body to have a proper communication. So it's almost like, we sometimes talk to patients about it as like a Wi-Fi signal, right? So if everything's working well, it's like you have 3 bars, you could download your music, your TV shows, your games, everything's going well. But the more distorted your spine is, and maybe that's because of an accident or a fall, an injury, poor posture, sitting at a computer all day, looking down at your phone all day, all those things will start to deteriorate and break down your posture, and that interferes with that signal between your brain and the body. Now you have, instead of 3 bars for your Wi-Fi, now you're down to maybe 1. So now things are taking longer, a little slower to heal, more breakdown, and that could definitely lead to things like headaches and neck issues and back issues. But that, again, that pain is not the real cause. That's just an effect of things not working well. Right. So what we want to do is help to get your spine back to as close to its normal position so things can heal and function the way it was supposed to be in the first place.
You bet. And to get the spine back into that position, the very first step is to obviously, see a corrective care chiropractor, someone that's trained in these methods that can, one, look at your spine, do an exam, take some proper x-rays and say, yeah, your spine is shifted this far away from its normal position. And then we understand, okay, if it's out of position here are the steps that we need to take to bring it back to normal. Okay? Right. And there are generally 3 components that we use to bring it back to normal, and we use the acronym EAT. Right? The 3 components are the exercises, the adjustments, and the traction. Okay. So if you've been listening to this podcast or you've been in our office, I'm sure you've heard us talk about it over and over, your postural corrective exercises, right? People, like you mentioned, the posture epidemic, cell phones, computers, this rounded forward, lack of movement. So we're always teaching people these exercises to straighten up and maintain proper postural health, right? So we can help the muscles get stronger to hold the spine in a good position. But that alone cannot fix damaged ligaments that have been shifted out of position. Right. Okay. Now the adjustments can help get the bones moving properly because the bones have to have proper motion. So we adjust someone, the spine can move properly. Great. It helps to stimulate the brain, helps to stimulate the nervous system.
And people could feel better right away.
Right. And they'll be in a better position. Yep. But without retraining those ligaments, what's going to happen is because of that damaged ligament memory, by the time 12 to 24 hours goes by, you're going to want to slip back to that old position. Okay, so we have the exercises, we have the adjustments. So now to hold it in position after we've done the adjustment, now we want to do traction. And traction is the same thing, like you mentioned, it's like braces for teeth. It is deep, sustained stretching on those ligaments to then put them back into a new position. So we're like remolding the ligaments of the spine back to the normal, or as close to normal, healthy as possible.
Right. So I guess it's almost like the, if you want to think of it like the braces, right? Where let's say you put the braces on and then let's say after 2 weeks you take them off, right? Or you're not doing and holding your retainer so that, you know, it's not doing that sustained pressure.
Right.
So same kind of thing, but for us, we're doing it on a consistent level. So
Correct.
why and how should we use that Denneroll?
Okay, so at first, let's say you come in, you find out your spine has lost, we'll say 70% of its normal curve, or it's 70% deviated from normal. So, you know, depending what office you are, you get some recommendations to do this repetitively until we can do a re-examination and check back in, and maybe do a re-x-ray and assess if the spine has gotten as close to normal as possible. Mm-hmm. So while that process is going on, the initial corrective process, it's every single day. Okay, so you use a roll every single day. Once we find that we've gotten to sort of a plateau where your spine is kind of as close to normal as possible for you, then we would drop down to a maintenance, which could be as low as once a week using the Denneroll, and as high as 3 times a week, depending on what you do, right? Like, you know, if you're a high-end athlete that's, you know, smashing your body every single day in wrestling or judo, right, that person might need 2-3 times a week a Denneroll versus like the yoga instructor that drinks green smoothies, right? They just have less pressure to their spine, less stresses, less requirements to help rehabilitate the curves. Right. So it's dependent. So we'll say on average twice a week is good to maintain the spine in position.
And that's the key point that you just mentioned there, is everybody is different, right? So you may be at a desk, but you know, that person at a desk, what kind of other lifestyle habits do you have? You know, good healthy habits or bad health, you know, diet, exercise. So you may need, you know, more than someone else based on what your overall lifestyle is, right? So that's a key thing to understand, is always double check back with, you know, your chiropractor, obviously with us, to make sure that things are going in the right direction.
And remember that these rolls, the Dennerolls, are prescribed by your chiropractor or by a licensed healthcare practitioner that can diagnose and take x-rays. That's really important, because this is not just, you know, you're not just going to the store and buying a Denneroll and putting it under your spine yourself, because it is a device that's, you know, orthopedically designed to create a strong change in the spine. Okay, so there's rolls. Everybody's going to be different depending on what your situation is. There's going to be a cervical one for the neck. There's going to be a thoracic one for the mid back, and a lumbar one. And it depends the area of the spine that have been damaged and where the pressure I should say is on those nerves of the spine. So where are we trying to remove pressure from the spine and the nerves?
So let's say, if you want to call it, start from scratch. So let's say someone is just starting their Denneroll use, right? So now they've been adjusted, usually for a few weeks, getting the spine to start to move, and now they're ready to get to the second phase of care, is getting that traction involved. So how should they start? Where should they start from?
Okay, first things first, you're going to want to do this on the floor at home, right? Okay. You're doing this on the floor because you're laying down on your back for all of these. You don't want to do it on a bed or a soft surface, because then it sinks into the bed and it doesn't have the same effect. So step 1 is on the floor. Step 2 is going to be choose a time of day that will be consistent. So if you're a morning person and you want to do it in the morning, great. Do it all the time at ideally the same time of day. It's going to have better results than if you're all over the place. Your body will then have a stronger response, okay? You start with 3 minutes. So even 3 minutes might be a little bit much. So the point there is you're only starting with a couple of minutes, because this is a strong stretch. And then you'll build in 1 to 2 minute increments from 3 minutes. So maybe we go 3 to 4 or 5 to 5 or 6, 7 or 8, until you're reaching 10 to 15 minutes a day. So 10 is the minimum that we need daily to get a permanent change. So in instance, if you're always doing 8 minutes, same thing, it'll help. Like with the adjustments, it's going to make you feel better, function better, but we're not going to have that sustained long-term correction.
And I think this is where the key thing for patients to understand, right? So less than 10 minutes, there's a great stretch, right? It's moving, it's doing great, no problem there. But there's no permanent physical, physiological change to that ligament and muscle. So past the 10-minute mark is that key time frame that we need to physically change that ligament and muscle. So now those muscles can now hold your spine in a new position.
Correct.
That's why that 10-minute mark is so important.
Yeah, and that key word there for the science geeks of us out there, if you're like me, that word is ligament creep, and that's where the ligaments are creeping into a new position, truly. Okay? So now someone might hear that and they say, okay, doc, if 10 minutes is great, does that mean an hour is better? No. Okay, we know the benefits really, they don't want to say stop after 20 minutes, but 20 minutes is really that top end. And I generally don't tell my patients to do more than 15 minutes, because it's hard enough to have you do it every day, let alone the longer the time frame, the more unlikely you are to do it. So for me, it's 10 minutes minimum. I say 15 minutes max. Ideally, everybody's doing 15 minutes a day while correcting the spine.
So let's go back a few things. You mentioned a few things in
Yep.
terms of, like, let's say doing it every day, but
Yep.
ideally doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
So I guess even to help you out, from the patients that have been the most successful in using their Denneroll,
Yep.
is they've literally found a time or
An anchor.
something that they're doing it consistently.
Yeah.
So like I have a patient, she does it, first thing in the morning, she puts on, let's say, kind of some music, and she basically, or she meditates in the morning, and she does it while she's doing her Denneroll. So
Yep.
it's a consistent thing that she's doing. So if you could tack on other things that you could do at the same time, then even better.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would say another good one to do it, Dr. Dan, is like, for me, what I found when I had to do the corrective portion for my spine, I laid it on the floor next to my bed. And so what I would do is every night going to bed, like I couldn't get into my bed without climbing over my rolls. So it was like that instant reminder that I have to do this.
Right.
And so I personally love to lay on it at night, because once you do get to that 15-minute mark, it's very, very, very relaxing. And it's a great way to just remold your spine into a beautiful position and then go to bed,
Yeah.
sleep, with extended healing time with that pressure off your spine.
Now, I'm just thinking of all this, and I'm laughing a little bit because, like, we're talking about 10 to 15 minutes.
Right.
And the sad reality is a lot of times patients come back and go, but doc, like, I'm so busy, I have this. And I heard a quote once that if you don't have 10 minutes to, be quiet and by yourself, then you really need 3 hours to reset yourself. So really the reality is that, yes, 10 to 15 minutes is not a long time,
Yep.
but it is what you need to make sure that things are able to progress properly. Right?
Correct. And then just a couple other notes to note. So once you're done using your Denneroll, we never want you to sit up quickly, right? Because again, this is changing your ligaments, it's changing your physiology. So there's a strong neurological response, which means that once you're off of the Denneroll, you lay on the ground and you rest for a couple minutes before standing up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
If ever you find that maybe you're a little bit dizzy, sometimes people that have very low blood pressure, low blood sugar, they'll be dizzy as they stand up. So I always tell them, make sure you drink adequate water and eat a little bit before doing it, so that you have normal blood pressure and good blood sugar. The other things to note are, if you're sore after, no problem. It's just like tightening braces. Put a little bit of ice on the spine for 15 minutes wherever you're sore. That'll help cool things down and keep the soreness down.
Perfect. Anything else?
I think that's it in terms of the protocol on how to use it. So,
Okay.
so how about for those of you who've never used one, and you're
Yep.
interested in finding out, how this could benefit you, because maybe you're having neck pain, back pain, headaches, any other type of nerve condition or nerve symptom that could be a sign of spinal issues, and you want to get checked, you could go to denneroldocs.com.
Okay.
So again, I'll spell it out: DENNEROLLDOCS.com, denneroldocs.com, and you type in your address, your zip code, whatever that might be, wherever you are, Canada or US, and that'll show you those doctors that are trained in this type of technique. They'll show the ones closest to you.
Yeah. And again, just when we're talking about the Denneroll, it's just another thing that you can do to really make an impact, not just for now, but for 5 or 10 or 20 years from now, that your spine may not have degenerated or broken down if you're doing all this work right now. So it's really going to pay off. Trust us, you're going to do great. But just one little day, one thing at a time, you're going to do awesome.
And it's just like brushing your teeth, right?
Yeah.
You brush your teeth consistently because you want to have them for a long time. Your spine is no different, and the reality is, pressures from sitting and using cell phones, technology, that kind of stuff, they aren't going away, so we need them, right? So.
Go ahead.
That's it.
So thanks for listening to The Healthy Commute. Again, you've been listening with Dr. Dan and Dr. Pascal. We'll talk to you next time. Have a wonderful day.